Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Triangulation is brought to you by CacheFly at cachefly.com.
This is Triangulation, episode 124, recorded Wednesday, October 16th, 2013. Jeri Ellsworth and castAR. Triangulation is brought to you by lynda.com. Learn what you want when you want with access to over 2,000 high-quality online courses and training videos, all for one low monthly price. Try it free for 7 days. Visit lynda.com/triangulation. That's lynda.com/triangulation. And by 99 Designs, the world's largest graphic design marketplace. 99 Designs connects businesses seeking quality, affordable designs with a community of more than 225,000 graphic designers. Visit 99designs.com/TRI to receive a free Power Pack upgrade valued at $99. And by audible.com. To download the free audiobook of your choice, go to audiblepodcast.com/triangulation.
It's time for Triangulation, the show where we get very interesting and smart people to talk about what they're up to. And man, we got a very interesting and smart person with us right now. You all know the wonderful Jeri Ellsworth. She's been on many times before. There was the time you came in the dress that lit up.
Oh, yeah. It had like this delay line through it.
Yeah.
And when you got close to my dress, it would light up.
Would say hello, sort of.
Yeah, kind of. Come talk to me.
There was the time you came and you built a cloud chamber using common household items. There was a time you had a laser cutter in the back and you set it up in the back and
we tried
backyard.
to blow up a bottle, too.
Yeah, that was there with Colleen, yeah. So Jeri's been around for a long time. She's a great maker, very talented, smart engineer. And we kind of lost track. Pinball enthusiast as well.
Of course.
We have a pinball game in the back from Jeri. But we kind of, and she's done those great podcasts on building your own like car and stuff like that, your dragster or whatever that was.
Quarter-mile dirt track car.
What she said. But, which is how you grew up, right? Your dad was like into this stuff and he taught you all this stuff.
Yeah, my dad was an auto mechanic. And then I worked at his gas station. And then I decided I wanted to get into race cars. So I learned how to weld and built my own quarter-mile dirt track cars.
So cool. Do you still have that quarter-mile dirt car?
Oh, no. It's like I built
You've
one
moved
for a
on
friend recently. But
yeah.
It was a lot of fun getting back into like building race cars.
In fact, Jeri's been on Triangulation before. We talked all about
like number one or two.
Yeah,
well, number two or three,
it was like for the first one. We did a couple with you, and you talked about chip design and how you taught yourself how to design chips. And I still have my Commodore joystick back here that has the back door that lets me get a whole Commodore 64 out of a little joystick thing. Anyway, we've talked go back and look at the old ones because she's here with something new. Last time I was aware of you, you went to work for Steam.
I did. Yeah, I went to Valve Software that has their digital distribution system called Steam. I was the first hardware hire there. They hired me to build an R&D department so that they could work on Steambox and input devices and output devices.
Right.
And I was tasked with pretty much exploring anything that was related to games, input, output. We were, looking at people's galvanic skin response to see what their emotional state
So
was.
it was really almost a blue sky R&D.
Yes.
That's what I figured you were doing, but I thought you were like building a Steam box, which they have in fact announced they're going to release next year. Then there was a big layoff. Like a lot of people, including you and a bunch of other people, were gone.
Yeah, I kind of. In my case, I just pushed too many people the wrong way, so they let me go. But
that's horrible.
I know.
We'll talk more about that in a second.
Yeah.
Were you working on this at Valve?
Yes. So this was a peripheral I was designing for the Steam box.
This is castAR.
Yes. This is projected augmented reality glasses. And the concept behind this was a peripheral for the Steam box to make it more interesting for casual game players. It was just to round out the entire offering. So that's what my idea was when I started developing this.
Now the reason we're in the dark is because we're gonna put these things on. Now this is obviously kind of a prototype. In fact, you've got a little Kickstarter going.
Oh yeah.
You've raised. In fact,
we hit our funding today.
Today you funded $400,000.
56 hours, I think.
Yeah, you still have 30 days to go.
Yeah.
So we'll go for the stretch goals.
Yes.
But so this is what it is. Now people who contribute to the Kickstarter project, will they get a pair of castAR
Yes.
glasses? Am I saying it right? Is it castAR or castAR?
castAR.
Okay.
So the way it works is it projects two images. They look very dim when you like shine it on your hands. But then when it goes out to the special retroreflective surface out here,
That's a retro-reflect. Whoa! Okay, it's suddenly gotten very 3D.
yeah, so we have a high precision head tracker that tracks your head position.
Yeah.
It's triangulating itself. Haha. We're on triangulations. Off of this, if you cover that up with your hand, you're going to see that you're going to lose
Is it
tracking.
doing that with RF or is it visual?
This is infrared, and we
Infrared, okay.
we modulate the LEDs so that the glasses, and it's all hardware accelerated tracking. It figures out what these points are and triangulates your position. And so this is the origin. If I move
Oh,
this,
you're moving me, right.
yeah.
So right now I'm looking at what looks like, I'm looking top down like a game. In fact, whoa, I just blocked it and I lost track when you block the
Yeah.
tracker.
We can actually have more trackers on the surface, so you have.
What?
Oh, I don't know.
Bunch of them? Anyway, when I'm looking, it looks like a factory floor kind of. There's barrels there. There's, I don't know how much of this they can see.
So if you lean down, you can look across the horizon. So it tracks your head position 360 degrees.
Ah! So I'm looking down the side there of that building. So is this virtual reality?
So this is augmented reality, but this is kind of a cross of virtual reality.
So when I turn my head, I'm looking in different places.
Yeah.
But it's projected on here.
Yeah, and anywhere this material is, I'm gonna
Oh,
slip
yeah,
on my-
you're right. Now, if you open that up, I see more there. What is this material?
So this is retroreflector. It's used for safety gear.
Now it's raining in there, by the way. Wait a minute, it's raining there, but not here.
Because you moved your head outside of the
Oh, now it's raining.
the building.
Oh, put my head back in the building and it'll stop raining? This is a very interesting. Now, we've played with the Oculus Rift, which is a virtual reality headset. But this, I could see my hand. I could see Jason over there. I could see the world. But then projected onto this screen, I see something else. Oh, and that's me.
Yeah, that's
So
your
is this
character.
for a top-down game particularly, or?
It can work with first-person, third-person board games, tabletop gaming type experiences. And then we have some other peripherals, like we have a magic wand for it that you can reach out into this 3D space, which has the same accuracy as a head tracker. So you can actually reach in and touch the pixels with the wand and interact with the synthetic world out there.
So I presume stuff like this has been done before, yes or no?
No, this was actually an accident. I stumbled onto this when I was at...
What do you mean an accident?
Yeah, well, there was... I was working on a near-to-eye display, kind of like the Oculus, where you're putting light directly into your eye.
Right.
And I made this rig, and I put it on the optical bench, and I put a beam splitter in backwards. Instead of projecting into my eye, it was projecting out into the room. And we had a piece of this material that was in the room, and it was used for a sensor array that we were working on. But I saw this beautiful image, and I'm like, that's interesting. That solves a lot of the problems with like near-to-eye displays, because you're looking at a distance that's like a true distance for your eyes to look at. So
It's more comfortable, frankly. I don't feel so claustrophobic.
Yeah, and your eyes are always focused at the right depth.
Right.
And
I'm
they're-
not looking. Yes, that's right. Okay.
and your eyes converge at the right distance. So
So it
it's,
feels like I'm looking at something that's like right about here.
yeah,
Like where the screen is.
exactly. But it can also look like it extends way in there. If you kneel down and look way across the horizon, you can see way out into the distance.
Oh, yeah. Look at that. Wow. So it's hard to describe this experience to somebody who hasn't used this before.
That's actually been a big challenge for us because
People need to try it.
yeah, if you try to record through the glasses, it just doesn't really.
Right.
It looks flat because it's a 2D, medium. But,
Right.
But this is really, things are popping up. Like there's some. If I get close to you, I can see that there's some girders and stuff going across. And
Yes,
those
in
look
fact,
like they're right about.
they
in
get
here.
right in my way. Yeah, yeah. They're right there. Like that's right there. This is there. Yeah. Wow. Okay, so can we sit down? I think this is enough for the demo. I want to sit down and talk to Jeri about this, and we can talk a little bit more about the technology involved. Our show today is brought to you by lynda.com. I tell you what, I love lynda.com. It's very frequent that, I will run up against stuff that I need to learn quickly. It happens with our editors, too. When the new Final Cut came out, we said, oh, you got to learn Final Cut 10. When Lightroom 5 came out, I was about ready to leave on my trip. I needed to learn it fast. Where did I go? Lynda, Lynda.com. Lynda is a great place to learn software you might be using in your business, like Excel or
PowerPoint, QuickBooks, software you might be using for fun, like Lightroom or Photoshop. Maybe for your own business, for Dreamweaver, you can get business skills like resume creation, time management, negotiation, and of course, photography. And one of the reasons I've known about Linda, first of all, I know Linda Wyman. I've known her for years, since the Screensavers days. She used to be here on our Screensaver show all the time. But also many of her instructors are people you'll know from appearances here. Derek Story, the photographer, Bert Monroy, Photoshop expert. I mean, imagine learning Photoshop from Bert Monroy. That's what happens at lynda.com. They're beautifully produced videos. They're curated so the content is spot on. You can get exercise files, so if you're working with Bert in Photoshop, you can actually work on the files that he created to do the Photoshop classes. There's text transcriptions of every one of their 2,000 courses. That means you can search the text transcript for the thing you want to learn and jump right to that point. Lynda, Lynda.com. Those videos will have everything you need to become proficient at a huge variety of things. And there's new videos added every day. In fact, they just added new videos on, let's see, I had it here somewhere. Oh, they got this new creative inspirations thing. This is so cool. Documentaries. Bert Monroy is one of the subjects on that. I'll tell you what, here's the best thing to do. Visit lynda.com/triangulation, and you can get free 7 days run of the place. Every one of those 2,000 videos, you can look at them all. You can pick a topic you'd like to learn, and everything you can do in 7 days is all yours, absolutely free. Normally $25 a month for Lynda's entire course library. They also have a premium plan, $37.50 a month, and you get all the exercise files so you can follow along with the instructor. I really like lynda.com. This week they added practicing photographer, increasing your creativity at work, code efficiency. Yes, they have programming classes too. Lynda, Lynda.com/triangulation for 7 days, full trial at lynda.com. I think you're going to like it a lot. Back to Jeri Ellsworth and Rick. Rick, it's nice to meet you.
You too.
Rick Johnson.
Yes.
And so you guys were both at Valve together. But you can't talk about it because you're enjoined. Correct. Even say that you're enjoined is probably violating that.
Yes.
So I'll let Jeri talk. So this is stuff that you developed there. How did you take it with you, though?
So the backstory on getting laid off at Valve, they didn't quite understand what I was doing in the vision of this.
But they hired you to do that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
To do blue sky R&D.
It's a funny place, and there can be some politics. And
okay.
I got wrapped up in the politics, I believe, and I think that's why I got pushed out. And the day that I got laid off, actually I was coming upstairs, I heard that one of our mechanical engineers got laid off, and I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna what's going on?
I'm gonna kill that Gabe Newell. Get her in here.
And so I went storming upstairs, and then I came into our lab, and then Rick was sitting there, and he's kind of moping, like, oh, I got laid off, and you're getting laid off too.
Oh my.
And I'm like, what is going on? And so it was a very weird layoff. We were all kind of hanging out all day. We all kind of knew who was getting laid off. And so I was getting mad. I was going to go yell at Gabe about this. And then when it came my time to get laid off, I went up there, and of course I was like, by the time I was walking in the door, I was like cotton mouth, and I was like half crying because I developed this tech, and we'd really believed in this tech. And then, you know, in between trying to be strong and like crying, I was like, Gabe, you need to just give us this or fund it outside the company so that we can.
Because it's too good to just bury.
Just throw away, because
you would be.
They laid off everyone that was working on this project.
Yeah, it'd be gone.
Yeah, so he turned to the lawyer in the room, and he's like, just let him have it. It wasn't quite that simple. It took us 3 months of negotiations to actually get it.
Yeah, but I give him a little props for having the right instinct on this and saying, I'm not going to bury it. You're right. You guys worked hard on it, and the world deserves it.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'm sorry you got laid off.
It was weird, but that's the way it goes.
That's
but
the way
it's actually, we're better off, I think.
You are better off, and having been exactly through this kind of thing, you're lucky enough, you could take it with you, and you've got the brains, and you got what you need to do it, and now you've got the money.
I'm so blown away.
Isn't this better? Yeah.
So a little bit more backstory before all the layoffs and all that stuff that was terrible and devastating, but that accident I was talking about. So we made this thing called a head crab, which had these huge projectors. And
I can see, by the way, why you did not fit in, because you're too crazy.
Oh.
It's like it's like this doesn't fit. What are we gonna do? It's crazy
That's
stuff.
exactly the thing.
It's like you're making me nuts. I don't get it.
That's the kind of reactions I was getting.
I just want a joystick and a computer. Can you do that, please?
That's kind of how it was.
It was too blue sky for them, I think.
And so I made this big head crab, and I proved, I'm like, well, look at this very stunning 3D graphics that we can do, and it didn't even track your head position.
Right.
And people are like, and it had a cable like that big around.
People what are we going to do with this?
Exactly. And so I'm like, don't worry about that. It's my job. I can shrink that. I know how to make these things
By the way,
small.
you called it a head crab because, of course, in Half-Life 2, the things get...
Yeah.
and make you jump out of your skin. So now I understand the name. But did it look like that?
It did. It was like this big helmety thing. And it had these 2 cell phone style projectors. I think it's on our Kickstarter page. You could go take a look at it.
I love it.
And but we did a proof of concept, and the first thing out of everyone's mouth when they put it on, especially after we got head tracking working, was, wow. And that was when I knew that was going to be a good product. But there was still casual games in Valve. I don't think we're really, they didn't quite get it, even though I was saying that, well, we can do these other things. We can put a clip-on onto the device and turn it into a VR rig so you can do first-person shooters. It was just too big of a leap.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure I even get this yet. So
it's complicated.
It's complicated, and I think you do have to have the experience of it, which certainly helps. So the idea is, again, I've worn the Oculus Rift. You put that on, you're looking at 2 screens which are this far from your eye. When you turn your head, it's like you're looking around in a room. That's VR, virtual reality. And I have to say, as much as I love the Oculus Rift and as impressive as it is, it's still, I mean, it's low res. It's still not a great experience, and I'm not sure, and it makes you queasy. Yeah. So I'm not sure what it's really great for. So this is not that. Yeah, it can be that.
So this all stemmed out of trying to solve those problems for near-to-eye displays, which we, of course, at Valve, we were looking at like, well, VR would be the ultimate gaming experience, so let's figure out what the problems are. And so we ran hundreds of people through tests of VR rigs, and people were getting ill and having problems in eye strain and headaches and stuff like that. So by flipping the optics inside out, you
by accident.
By accident, yeah. It turns out your eyes are focusing at a nice, comfortable distance, and there's no eye strain.
It is. It's much more. I can vouch for that. It's much more comfortable. It's not as bright, right?
Well, this is an earlier prototype. Our next ones are brighter.
Okay. So it can be as bright.
Yes.
It has an advantage, disadvantage, which is as I look around the room, I'm still in the room. I can see you. I can have a conversation with you. That's an advantage because you're not. I mean, I'm always afraid when I'm wearing the Oculus Rift, somebody's going to jump me from behind because you can't. You know, you're completely vulnerable. This, you're not as vulnerable.
Yeah, you can see your hands.
But it's not as immersive for that reason, too, right?
Well, it depends on how you configure the material. So anywhere the material is becomes a display. So if you want a bigger display, you just put up more material. So you hang it on your wall.
It could be fully immersive.
It could be.
You could make a holodeck.
This could be the holodeck. So what is this material?
So this is retroreflector.
It's commonly made. It's not something you invented. This is a normal.
It's very inexpensive. It's used on safety gear. It's sewn on.
When you shine light on it, it shines back.
Directly back in the same direction. So that's why it works so well.
So there's crystals in it.
Yeah, little glass spheres.
Movie screens are probably made of something similar to this, right?
Similar to it.
Okay. So it's like a projection screen.
But even more directional.
Even more so.
But fortunately, it's used for safety gear. It's the little silver strips they put on like construction worker.
Right. Could you paint this on walls? Or
they do have paints.
You can also paint it.
Yeah.
Because you know, I remember seeing the prototype Microsoft showed, which the Illuma room, and which they said, oh, now we're never going to release it because it's too expensive. It's not practical. And that was okay, but it was kind of interesting because you'd be playing a game on a screen, but then it had a little projector that the rest of the room would have this stuff.
Yeah.
But if there's bulges in the room, the thing bulges. So this, you imagine what? Somebody has on their TV, they pull down a screen or what?
So there's a lot of different configurations you can do with the retroreflective material. So you could just hang it on the wall like a poster. So you add more material, you want a 50-foot screen, you just hang 50 feet of it up, and then you put the tracking markers up. So
now, what are these? You said are infrared. So they have,
they're IR.
If you look on the back, you can see the wiring. So each of these LEDs is what, putting out infrared light?
It is, and then they're modulating a special code. So each one of those little squares we can identify, and then when the glasses sees them, it knows at what point in the world that you're looking, and it triangulates itself.
And all you need is one to do that, but you could
One's
have
the
more.
minimum, and then you can have multiples. Like if you wanted to do a whole wall, you probably, we have about 110 degrees that the camera can see out of the glasses. So every 110 degrees.
You put another one.
So like every 5 feet or
Right.
so you would put one
And
up.
these are inexpensive. They're just LEDs, right?
Yeah, I mean, we're not going to hide the protocol for modulating the LEDs. If you wanted to build your own, fine. We're going to obviously supply them.
No, it's interesting because there's one. I get the four corners. What's this one in the middle doing?
The one in the middle is the one that we're actually sending out the ID on. So we only need to know one of them. The others can just be plain LEDs that are on all the time. So each one of
But
those.
why have 5 then? You really only need one,
Use it
right?
to triangulate.
I get it.
So for just do your trigonometry and figure out where your head position is. We actually are.
Jeri is so freaking smart.
Well, Rick did it.
Rick too. I kind of understand the notion, but yeah,
I
you'd
mean,
have
Rick
to
could
know
probably explain it better. He
trigonometry
did
and
the
all sorts
math.
of crazy math.
Essentially, you need to know exactly what point is in what corner. And so the one that's offset identifies that this is that starting corner, and then it can go clockwise to determine the rest of the
I see.
points.
So in effect, this is an arrow.
It's an arrow.
Pointing to the lower left corner,
Yeah.
saying this
And
is the one
this
you
is
start
the guy
with.
in the corner,
1,
that's home
2,
position,
3,
and then we can
4.
figure out.
Ah, see now you're right. He did explain it better.
Yeah. I can get down to like if you want to know how electron hole pairs work, and we can do it that way. So okay, with the
That's
ID
cool.
points, that's kind of an interesting point. You can, each of these can have a unique ID, so the computer can know what you're looking at. You could have other surfaces around the room with unique IDs. So if I look over here, this could be an information display, a poster hanging on the wall with that. And then I could have one rolled out on the table, which is our D&D game. And
Oh,
the
this is
computer,
interesting. So I can have a control center effectively, and it knows what I'm looking at each place. Would you put one of these in each of those? Is that?
Not
No, it just needs to know your head position. That's
Yeah.
all, right? So it knows I'm looking there, so I'm going to show this display in here. So it could be a command console.
it could be a holodeck too. If you wanted to go over the top and do an entire
So it could be
room.
above and below and behind and everywhere I look.
The computer renders everywhere, right?
The computer knows exactly where you are in the physical world. And so
Right.
we can respond to, if you're looking at this particular direction, have it display something or even move the world differently.
And if now, so the magic wand that you created, and I have a picture on the screen here, or you have one, okay.
Yeah, this is
That's a
the-
way to reach into that world. Because
Yeah.
my finger won't do, or would it?
If you used a leap motion, that would be a way to do
Okay.
it. So we're not.
Something needs to sense me breaking that plane and
Yeah.
going in there.
So basically, the magic wand, we have this sub-millimeter accurate head tracker. So we're putting that into the wand.
And the wand has an infrared LED at the tip.
Well, this one, this is kind of obsolete to tell you the truth. Our new wand has a head that, in the glasses, there's a tracking camera that's tracking your head position.
Okay.
And then in the wand, we'll have the same tracking camera, and it'll have the same precision. I'm sorry, you keep trying to move. I'm moving around.
Yeah, you hold it still, and then poor Anthony's going like, oh, I can't find. So, all right, so there's the wand, but the newer one has a camera instead.
It's gonna be a camera.
Yeah.
So.
And so show me what's in these glasses, because this looks fairly simple. I remember seeing videos of you last minute soldering and welding together something at the
God,
Maker
yeah.
Fair. So let's take a look at these.
So these are models.
Are these regular what are they? Are they 3D glasses? What?
It's okay. I'll walk through the glasses.
Yeah,
here.
what's in here?
So we have 2 micro projectors. So that's projecting your stereo image out to the surface.
Oh, that's interesting. So that image is coming from them.
Yes, it goes out to the surface, bounces.
That's why we have a screen.
Yeah.
That's the projector.
2 very small projectors. Here's the electronics that's in the projector. This little guy here, that's a 720p projection engine.
Wow.
And this is the control circuit.
Can you go higher res down the road? Is that
They're
just a clock?
constantly shrinking
Yeah.
them.
Okay.
There's actually 4K on a side
That's where we want to go, right?
someday.
Yeah,
But I
someday.
mean, we couldn't afford those right now.
No,
but
yeah.
This is the drive electronics. We have a chip that's doing all the image processing. We're actually tracking those LEDs in real time in hardware, so the computer doesn't have to do any work. That's essential when we start moving towards phones, because there's no real transport to the phone to bring entire images down. Plus, we don't have the latency to transfer an entire image.
So the Oculus Rift, you're actually running software on a computer communicating with the Rift. You don't need that.
It's done in hardware.
Wow.
So that's one of the reasons it's so smooth and it's so accurate.
There's no latency because there's no
Yeah,
distance.
as soon as the
right
points
there.
are detected, the hardware is sending these points down, and then Rick's magic software figures out where your head pose and position is.
So the camera in the middle over the nose, that's the sole thing that's for figuring out the positioning?
Yeah.
There's
so
no accelerometers or anything like that. It's all coming from that one camera.
It's all absolute. There's no drift or anything like
No.
that.
So that camera is seeing these infrared LEDs, and it's figuring out where
Exactly.
it is in space and what you're looking at, and it does that in real time. How fast? You said
So 120 hertz.
it's 120 hertz.
And our
Wow.
projectors are 120 hertz.
Okay, so that's very high quality, right?
It's
It's a good frame rate.
So the reason people get ill with other systems is if there's drift.
Latency, yeah.
Your latency is
Or
another
drift.
one.
Yeah, because your head's saying you moved here.
Your inner
and-
ear says,
Right.
you know, it's not. It's like
Right.
being on a boat.
Right.
Like you see the horizon moving, but
The
you don't see.
mismatch between what you're perceiving in one way and what you're perceiving
Yeah,
another
so
way.
since we have sub-millimeter accuracy, if you move, 20 centimeters over, the computer can generate the graphics for 20
There's no
centimeters.
eye tracking involved. It's all head
No.
tracking. Not even head tracking, really. It's all what
It's
I'm,
all head tracking.
What I'm looking at, I guess that's head tracking.
Head tracking.
So there's really only three things. There's the two projectors, left and right, and I could do stereo because it's left and right. I could do 3D imaging and all
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
So what you saw was popping up out of the table and then
Right.
extending forever out into the distance.
Yeah, and I'm not a fan of 3D, by the way. In fact, because I generally have one eye at a time, so I don't even perceive 3D very well. I can do it. I was very comfortable with that. I didn't have any of the issues, and you said partly that's because I'm not focusing
Yeah.
inappropriately. 3D,
And for folks that can't see 3D,
it still worked.
it works because a lot of people that can't see 3D use lateral motion.
That's how I do it.
So this actually does lateral motion where other systems don't. So
Right.
when you move to the side, you see all the correct parallax.
Right.
And
So my brain is getting the information you see in the real world. The way I could still do this, which you wouldn't think you could do if you didn't have 3D vision, but I use other cues, including lateral motion, imperceptible lateral motion. So that picks it up, and it still works.
yeah.
You guys are good.
we did, when we were researching this, we distilled all the problems down and we knew, like, here's all the problems.
Here's what's wrong with...
And now, how do we go out and we find commodity parts like cell phone
well,
image
that's the other thing. It's
sensors?
got to be cheap.
Yeah, so that was one of the things. It was thought to be impossible to use cell phone image sensors to do this kind of thing. And we came up with a little optics trick that allows us to use these very inexpensive cell phone cameras that normally are no good. You know, the rolling shutter when you move.
Because they're CMOS, yeah.
You just kind of see that smearing. We've fixed that.
So these sensors are cell phone sensors?
Yes.
Sony's or whatever like that?
We're using Aptina.
So it's the same kind, but they'd be the same kind as being your camera, cell
Yeah.
phone camera.
But
Very
it
cheap.
really doesn't matter what brand.
A camera's a camera.
Camera's a camera. Rolling shutter is what we're using, so it's inexpensive and small and
How do you fix the rolling shutter issue?
It's a little optics trick. It's kind of part of our IP.
So do you have patents around this?
Yes, we've been filing patents.
Yeah. So you've got some smart stuff going on in here that you've figured out.
And a
that-
lot of this came after we left Valve. It was stuff that
Good.
we were hypothesizing that
Right.
would work, and then we just never got a chance to do it. And
Let's give a little credit to Valve for at least
Yeah.
getting it started, and to Gabe Newell for having the good sense to say, can we give him this? And for the lawyers for a month later figuring out how. And for Rick, I bet you spent some time negotiating this. I have a feeling.
It was a long month.
Yeah, I
Very
bet
long.
it was. Yeah. Do they have a little stake in this?
No,
No.
not at all.
It's all yours.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It was.
I'm so happy for you.
It was so great. We was it 2 months after we went to Maker Faire, our first public showing. We thought it was important that we get out into the public.
I remember this.
And we're
it
like, it's
looked like
real.
the thing was held together with chewing gum. I mean, it really
Yeah.
looked kind of like, as Colleen used to call it, a ghetto assembly. Yeah. But
Well,
it worked.
that's how hardware works, though. You start with
Prototype.
the head crab,
Yeah.
and then you go smaller, and
Yeah.
it's hot glued, and then
Yeah.
when you're done, of course, this is just a model.
But it looks pretty
But-
clean.
Yeah, so this is
It looks
the
pretty
direction
good.
it's going to
In fact, that looks as simple as the 3D glasses that come with your television
Yeah.
set. I mean, it's very, very simple. And what do you think you can make these for? I know if I want to participate on the Kickstarter, and it's still going on, for $189 I would get
That's
the starter kit.
That's where you get right in.
Yeah.
You get the surface, you get the glasses.
And I get this too.
Yeah.
A 1 meter by 1 meter surface. By the way, even though so you put you put this Kickstarter up a day ago,
It was 5 o'clock Eastern time on Monday.
and how'd you get the word out?
Well, we've been working the
People knew about it because of Maker and all of
Maker
this.
Faire.
right?
We were just constantly.
Yeah.
We went to half a dozen trade shows.
Part of our philosophy is that we've watched Kickstarter. We invest in Kickstarter, and there's hardware projects which kind of promise a fantastical vision of
Pebble
these
Watch,
CG movies that
yeah, right.
just can't be done.
Right.
And so we decided we're just going to be honest. We're going to show the glasses in the public. We're going to go to trade shows so people
Right.
can actually touch it, knowing full well we're leading up to the Kickstarter
In fact,
date.
your video was shot with castAR technology,
Entirely.
no CG
Entirely.
at all.
Our videographer was frustrated because we were dragging computers around, and we had made a rig that we could mount the camera, the glasses onto. And he was like, I could just CG this. And we're like, no, everything's got to be shot with our technology.
This is a good example because you're playing a chess-like game using the wand. So that's how you would reach in and move a piece, something like that. Yeah.
I mean, even though the video, you're probably only getting 10% of the experience, and because we used a big cinematic camera, our glasses had to be kind of off to the side, and you didn't get all the same brightness, but we felt it was important.
It's been a very difficult medium to record and then play back to people. It's the properties of retroreflective. As soon as the recording device moves away from the glasses, everything kind of loses contrast and color. If you look at like how you saw the vision over there versus how the public saw with the camera, it's a completely different perspective.
And that's a great property for us because you can have multiple people on the same surface getting unique perspectives. So if you're wearing glasses and we're looking at the surface, and I'm wearing glasses looking at the surface, we get unique views that don't interfere with each other. Render our teapot. You see the spout, I see the handle, Rick sees whatever.
Oh, so like when these kids are playing this game, two people. Well, let's go back. I want to go back a little bit on the video.
The Dungeons and Dragons scenario. The DM sees the entire world. You know, he's in charge of everything.
Yeah.
The players would only see their corridor, the fog of war, and so they can explore a dungeon as if he would actually right there.
But you're on the same reflective surface, so it's like you're on the same playing board with different, as you would in real life, I guess, unique views of what's going on, except much more than you could do in real life because it can be much more elaborate.
Yeah.
And you model stuff. Where does the game board come from? Is it modeled in a computer? How do you create that?
With the D&D scenario, we have the RFID grid, which sits underneath the surface.
So here it is. So
this is just a small piece of it. It's still in prototype stage.
So this is an RFID grid. So there's each one of these dots is an RFID, or?
Yeah, that picks up RFID signals, and you can put RFID enabled props.
So these are readers, not, and then so this guy has an ID, a unique ID, and so the glasses know where he is on the board, basically.
So with the series of coils, we can do a rough triangulation to figure out approximately where that RFID tag is sitting on a surface.
Okay.
And so if you think of a concept where you might have a wall and a door, the DM can just stamp, 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 and create a virtual dungeon as if you were doing a regular rubber stamp going around to it. And so
mapping the textures on it.
Mapping the textures, so it's easy to kind of augment your physical world with this virtual world by doing things that have never been done before.
Wow.
So in our board gaming set, we're still doing some experiments of how the board's going to come, but it's going to be 1 meter by 2 meters worth of RFID grid. You know, it may snap apart so you can store it, but then you can just roll it out on your table and have these local and remote D&D experience or board type game experience.
Yeah, there's, you know, if you think about modern board games, they've kind of made a resurgence, especially ones coming from Germany.
They're fun.
And it takes, some of them take like a half hour to set up with all the pieces. And then if you get interrupted, you have to either keep your table so the cats don't jump on them. This, you can just save out everything and then continue the next day. Or if you're playing with your friends in another, state over, they can see the same virtual world of the board setup as you have.
So I could play Star Wars chess. And
you can play a Star Wars like not copyrighted.
Not copyrighted by Paramount chess. Yes. All right, so people should go to Kickstarter.com. They should search for castAR, castAR, if they want to contribute. You've already funded, so what does that mean? You've got enough money to manufacture these in quantity?
Yeah, so we set our goal so we could manufacture. That's just mostly Rick and I doing the work. So it's not over yet.
It's not a factory.
Yes.
It's not a factory. Literally.
How many do you plan to make? You've got 1,754 backers, so I presume you're going to be making on that order of Are you ready?
We'll do whatever Kickstarter. We'll put up a store afterwards. But for literally this year, Jerry and I have been putting in 14 to 16-hour days, 5 or 6 days a week. I mean, we had
this is
one
more than a labor of love.
This
is it. This is your thing.
But it's not a sustainable effort on our health to do this. So while the amount we put in for Kickstarter allows us to hire people. Well, we can do it ourselves, but the more we can get through Kickstarter, the better we can.
You can make a living.
Yes.
See, we need.
You can't do this on ramen.
Yeah, but we need
We did buy a big box of ramen.
We need some other engineers. We need some programmers to expand out the game offerings. We need some industrial designers to help it be more comfortable and.
But does it get you a step closer towards mass production?
Yeah. So I mean
ultimately, you want to make mass produced, right? And you could do this.
Yep.
So okay, so you've funded. So what's the next step? You guys start making 1,700 glasses.
So next step, we have to get through funding, and so we've started to put out some additional stretch goals.
Yep.
And you know, 2 of the stretch goals right now is that the vision we showed with the D&D game, we want to expand that out to have a much more robust version so that people can instantly play and use those things. Second thing we're doing with the stretch goal is to add a microphone and earbuds.
Oh, yeah, audio.
But these are going to be optional, so if people have high-def headsets, they don't have to use it. But for those people that want to use this and still want to communicate with their friends across the country, it's a convenient step in that regard.
I guess you could use this for phone calls? No, like seeing. Could you see? You couldn't see another person. Wouldn't be like a Skype call, but you could play a game together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then we have some other add-ons. So our next level up above the entry-level kit, we have a clip-on device that converts it to VR.
So now you've sealed it in and you're a VR.
Yeah. So
That's
if you don't like the
basically
Surface and you're accustomed to VR type experiences.
Got it. You're attaching a reflecting screen on it.
So this has several reflectors inside of it that bounce the light back and forth and then expand it out and then bring it back down into your eye. So it snaps on there. So it just redirects the light back towards your eyes, very much like any other near-to-eye display.
Okay, so that's nice. You can do that. What else? You get the magic wand. We got to get that, right?
And along with the RFID grid, we have regular RFIDs. So they're just paper tags you can stick on things, and we have bases for your miniatures. Then we have our high-precision RFID bases that we designed that have other features in them. So it has bidirectional communication. So you can put buttons onto your figurines. So you can put your figurine down, and you might say like attack mode, and you push the button, and it becomes an input device. And along with that, it can also do high-precision tracking.
Right. One of the ideas we had early on, and we're going to try to do this as an update video for Kickstarter, is if you have a teeny little remote control car, we can change out the electronics to then be controlled by this precision and have you, with your joystick, control that remote car in a virtual racetrack. But since the computer is still sending the signals to the car, it can respond to hitting walls and things like that. So again, bringing the physical world into the virtual world.
Wow, this is so cool. We're talking with Rick Johnson and, of course, Jeri Ellsworth about their castAR. The company is Technical Illusions. I like the name. And it has a very interesting story. We're going to talk more in just a little bit. And I would like to know what the end game, or not end game, but the middle game is, and then maybe the end game as well. Where you're going with this. But again, go to Kickstarter and search for castAR, and you can participate in this. Yeah, they've reached their goal, but there's stretch goals, and you want one. I know you want one, so go get it. I love it. Our show today brought to you by 99designs.com. The great folks at 99 Designs are putting designers together with people who need creative stuff. There are a lot of people in the world who can do software, a lot of people in the world who can do hardware. And there are people, it's good to know, that they can do great, beautiful designs, but sometimes that's not the same person that could do all that. You need a team, and 99 Designs is a great way to get the world's largest graphic design marketplace on your side. Where are you looking for anything from a Facebook landing page to a mobile app? Maybe you want to get, a menu for your restaurant. You're a great cook, but are you a great designer? So here's the deal. You go to 99designs.com. You tell them what you need. Dozens of designers from the community, there are 250,000 designers in the community, will submit some ideas. You refine those ideas, select the designer you want, pay for your favorite at a fixed price. Right now, there are 2,000 open design contests at 99designs.com for 250,000 designers. The payments last month to these designers, $1.8 million. That's a lot of money. That's great. It is a great thing for designers, and it's a great thing for people who need design. All sorts of stuff, too. You can get landing pages starting at $2.99, T-shirts starting at $1.99. That's what we did for our T-shirt. And we've got a special deal for you. If you visit 99designs.com/TRI, you can get a $99 power pack of services for free. That gives you more designer time and attention. They're going to bold and highlight and feature your design project in their marketplace. That means you get twice as many designs. Simple, 99designs.com/TRI. I bet you've got a project, something you're working on that you'd like to make better looking. We've done a number of T-shirts that way. It's a really great idea. 99designs.com/TRI, and we thank them for their support of Triangulation. So, yeah, let's talk about what's next after this. What would you like? Where would you like to go with this?
So let's start with the past a little bit.
Okay.
Once we began exploring AR, we realized we didn't know anything about the space. We didn't know how to portray the graphics that would be effective for people to look at. We didn't know how the user was going to interact with it. Would games we consider traditionally fun be fun in this space? And so we created an environment where we could easily iterate with these ideas, figure out what fails, figure out what works, and go from there. And so the end goal of AR for anybody is to be able to augment anything in the world perfectly.
To just walk around, and as you're looking at a building, get more information about it. But my favorite ideas from Daniel Suarez's Demon and Freedom TM is to be able to look at people and see their reputation scores above their head. That's AR. That's augmented reality. Additional information overlaid on top of real reality.
Yeah. But that type of dream is many years away. It requires a lot of computer power and a lot of mathematics.
Right.
It's a big step. And people who try to do the big step right away will fail.
Right.
And so our vision is we're going to start an augmented reality in this kind of projected space. We're going to do something really well in that, but we're going to take the steps to eventually get to that. We're going to learn along the way.
Process. You're going to learn a lot about this.
And we can get the community involved because it is such a radically different space to think about. Space, input, user interface, and all those things.
Oh, yeah.
Get them involved early, and then as we approach this kind of final vision of truly what people want out of augmented reality, we all go there together.
Well, I'm thinking about Google Glass. And when Glass came out, did you look at it and go, uh-oh? Or did you go, boy, we could really help that be a lot better?
The first thing I did is I went to the optics lab and I cut a waveguide just like what they had and put a little micro display on it, walked around the halls like, this is Google Glass. And people are like, oh no, they got it. People were panicked. I'm like, nope, this is it.
This is it. That's all it is. It's a little waveguide screen, little prism so you can see it.
Yep.
That's it.
Not stereo, didn't have tracking.
Right. And it's not augmented reality. It's just a little screen in your vision.
Display.
It's an information display, yeah. But I think that they probably are like you, thinking augmented reality is the real goal, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, they're starting with information display, which makes a lot of sense for phones.
Right.
Or hooked to phones.
Right.
We're from the game space, so like, how can we have a kick-ass game experience? So that's what we did. It was like, we got to have accurate tracking. We've got to have, you know, really good, comfortable glasses you could wear for 4 or 5 hours and play your D&D game.
But so we do have where we're going to go for the next generation of stuff.
I get it.
We don't want to get that far off yet.
And there is an iterative process of learning what works, what doesn't work, how it works, what could be better. It makes perfect sense. Start with a constrained universe that you can understand a little bit better, see what people do with it, and go from there. That makes a lot of sense. But we're making some good progress here because you've got enough money now to kind of really build that. So what am I going to get with $189? I guess that's the starter package. It's the lowest. I'm going to get something.
You'll get the pair of glasses, which does 720p in per eye.
Yep.
And you'll get a 1 meter by 1 meter surface.
What do I hook it up to? How do I get it to do anything?
So there's 2 versions of software for developers. There's a low level, which gets you access to the hardware itself. And so if you have a custom engine, a custom app, you can use that particular API. For everything we've shown in the Kickstarter video, it was running under Unity. And so
so you work with Unity right now?
Well, we worked in it as an end user of the product. So everything we've done has been through the front end of the scripting language. And so the Angry Bots demo that comes standard with the Unity
that I was
package,
just playing,
that takes about 5 minutes to add our script in, and then all of a sudden it will work in that space.
Did you do that?
I did
coding?
that.
Yeah. So you're doing some of the software side of this? Yeah.
Yes.
And
that's
as far as
interesting.
devices, that's what you're kind of wondering, devices it'll hook to also?
Well, so the Unity is going to run on a computer?
So right now we're running on a computer.
Okay.
I've started the work on getting it to Android. Android's a little
you
more
could
of
also
an
put it
open
on a phone.
Yeah. So
And it's HDMI into the glasses, right?
So
Is that right?
we have two connections. There's HDMI or DVI, it's digital video going up to the glasses. And then we have a USB connection back that's sending down 72 bytes, is it?
72
I got it
bytes.
wrong the other day and people are giving me a hard time. 72 bytes of tracking information coming back down.
Is that all?
Yeah,
So it's,
that's
because
essential.
That's a
the
second?
hardware.
How often is that?
It's 120 times a second.
So 72 bytes per refresh cycle.
Yeah.
This is 120.
So most
Hertz.
image-based methods are sending down the entire frame buffer.
72
And
bytes
this
is nothing.
And so that leads us into
Is that positioning information? Is that what that you're saying?
it's the point data, a very precise point data that the image sensor is seeing, and then from there it goes into some software algorithms to figure out your world position.
So a lot of the hard work is done on the computer.
It's done on the glass.
It's on the glasses.
It's done on the glasses.
Glasses.
Glasses are simplifying it down.
Which is essential if we were going to move into the phone space. You know,
Right.
if the phone had to transport entire images, grind on them, figure out what's going on, you couldn't do it.
That's the latency that we have to kill.
Yeah.
Right.
So we've done that in hardware.
That's the DSP you were showing. That's
Yeah,
doing
so there's
all
a
of
single
that.
chip on there. Right now we're using an emulator chip to do it. For production, we're going to a low-cost metallized gate array, which I've done 1,000 times.
Right. You could do that in your sleep.
Dozen times in toys, but
So that's a custom. Is it an ASIC? That's a custom chip.
it's in between full custom and FPGA. It's the metallized gate array.
Okay.
It's what it's the
cheap thing that you can do that will give you.
It's a workhorse of the industry. Yeah.
Right. Right. Oh, that's cool. But right now you're emulating that.
Until we completely debug it
Right.
and we're happy
Makes
with
sense.
it, and then we nail it down in hardware. We make it.
This is the part that no one should have any concern about. Jerry, as she said, this stuff is easy.
That's what makes it smaller.
that's
You know,
easy
you just
thing.
integrate it all into one chip.
Cool.
So we're going to have a one-chip solution up on the glasses. So it'll be low power. And the projectors are low power because all that light that goes out comes directly back. Like you
Is
saw.
it getting its power from the USB, or does it have its own battery pack? How does it get its power
So
right
it's
now?
5 volts off USB drive.
It's getting the USB. Yeah, that makes sense. So I don't have to charge it up. I don't have to. It's always working.
So we'd considered doing wireless. That's a question we get very often.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, there's no system out there that can be low enough latency and low enough power to do it today.
That makes
You know, maybe
sense.
someday in the future
Right.
there'll be a system that can do that.
But it sounds like you're close to the idea of doing it on Android.
So again, our vision is that if you think about where people started playing electronic games in the arcade, it was a very social experience. Everybody was
Right.
looking at
It
each other,
was.
interacting. Slowly, it moved into the living room. Everybody became focused on the TV and not on themselves. And then VR, you don't even see people.
Which is no fun.
With this system,
This is much more
you
social.
can sit across from each other.
You
at
see the
table.
other person.
You see them. If I do something vicious to you, I'll see the emotions on your face.
It's awesome.
And so
the
part
fact
of-
that I could be looking at that environment and look over at Jerry, there's Jerry, look back at the environment is amazing.
And so part of being able to sit at the table is removing the barriers to entry of lugging your computer there.
Right.
And so if everybody's just plugged into their cell phones and everybody
I think a
has.
cell phone is a natural.
Yeah.
And it probably doesn't draw so much power that you couldn't actually get the power from the cell phone, right?
Yeah, it shouldn't be too much of a problem. But then there's these backup battery or these little
Oh
battery
yeah, you can plug it
packs.
into those too, sure.
You know, it might be pushing it if you're going to do a
I
5-hour
carry those around all the time, yeah. Those.
5-hour session or
Right.
something. You might need to have the battery backup.
So, so the Android would get the 72 bytes, would it be powerful enough to do those calculations?
Most of the modern cell phones,
They're pretty
at
powerful.
least the graphics-wise,
We got
they're
quad
going to
core,
do
we
that.
got-
The actual solving routines to figure out your world position is a trivial amount of math compared to everything else a game engine is doing.
Simple.
So
It's
it's not
straightforward.
adding that much to an engine.
Man, I love this idea. You got your Android phone in here, you plug into it, you got your glasses, and now I'm playing some amazing game with somebody in real. D&D people would flip over this, I would think, right?
Yeah.
What communities are calling you and contacting you and saying, "Oh, we got to have this"?
The board game is a very
must love
natural
that,
thing.
yeah.
If you think about if you use a precision basis, Warhammer, most of the time people are with their measuring
Yeah.
things and they're trying to figure out distances. the computer knows exactly where the pieces are. It can figure out the distances. It can visually show you a distance calculation, a radius sphere. And so now, instead of doing the legwork of the math, the computer is doing that for you. You can just concentrate on strategy and having fun.
Wow.
The other side of this is a lot of professional industries are talking to us. Airplane manufacturers, movie industry type devices, and even the medical community, as well as the scientific community. We're working with a shark researcher that he has sharks tagged in the oceans, and he gets GPS data, he gets water temperatures, and all these kind of things. Trying to visualize that in a 2D screen is very difficult, especially when you have multiple sharks swimming around. With this, you can move around, you can see the paths, you can zoom in, you can have multiple people looking at the data and all pointing at it, interacting with it. So it's a new way of the scientific community to explore these things.
I can think of a whole lot of things. I mean, if you're controlling any complicated environment, the ability to have heads-up displays in effect around. How big is the field of view total if you had reflective surfaces all around you?
So the glasses that you saw are 45 degrees, and that's only limited by the lenses that we put in it, the optics.
You could have wraparounds, I guess, right? Or no?
Well, it's not the actual form factor of the glasses at all. It's the projectors, the little lenses in the front.
Oh, it's those. Okay.
So the glasses that you looked at were 644/80 per eye, very low resolution, although it didn't feel that way.
No, it felt pretty good.
Yeah. We're going to 720p, so we're going to have a lot more pixels, so we put a different lens in that makes it wider. We're going over 60 degrees is what we are anticipating. There's even the possibility you could put corrective lenses on the projectors to make it massive, like 100 degree. Or
okay, you're going to have to explain something to me. Okay, so I get the idea. There's really only three things on here, right? These are the two projectors, and this is a camera. The camera knows where this is pointed. The projectors are projecting out onto that surface based on feedback. Camera goes to the computer, computer sends to the projector, and that thing. What are these doing?
Oh, okay.
Are these polarized? What is going on?
So those are shutters.
They're active shutters.
They're active shutters.
Okay, so like on your 3D glasses.
Similar, but we're driving them quite different than a TV. A TV draws a picture, opens the shutter for 2 to 5% of the time because it's got to draw the picture first.
Right.
Closes the shutters, and then it draws another picture. So you only have 5% open time. We're doing 50% open time, so you don't see any flicker.
50% back and forth, so one is open, then the other one's open? Or?
The reason we have to do that is the retroreflector is good at returning the light, but about 10% makes it to the other eye. So we've got to knock that down with the. So we tried.
Oh, now I'm understanding why this is very important. This is very directional.
Yes.
I get it now. So it's firing back directionally to the projector that sent it, which is right above the eyepiece that's receiving it.
Exactly.
So it needs to be bouncing right back in there. And you're saying 10%'s not bad given how close these two are.
Even if the shutters are off, you still see a stereoscopic image, but it's not as good as if you have the shutters.
It'd be crisper. Got it.
Now we have a secondary function, or third or fourth function of the glasses that you can use. You can use these with your monitor too. So it's very popular with racing simulators to have a head tracker, and you turn your head and the display on the monitor, your monitor changes. So we're shutter glasses. You can do stereoscopic right on your monitor.
So you don't have to have a reflective surface. You could have a monitor. It would have to be a special kind of monitor, no?
Well,
software.
It depends. Yeah, it's software.
It's like your TV. It's like your 3D TV. It's doing the same thing.
So for the monitor, you can have the shutters off.
Right.
And just do plain head tracking.
Okay.
You can have the shutters on, and you can do stereoscopic 3D, but with lateral motion, so you're actually getting parallax.
Wow.
So that's those operations. Then you have the clip-ons to where you can just do full VR, and then you have projected. It does it all. That's
right. Wow.
I feel like Billy Mays here. It's like,
it does everything. And it's made in Seattle, so you know it's good. Those Washington. You're still in Seattle?
Yes.
You're still up there? This is very interesting. We're going to take a break. When we come back, I want you guys, chat room. The chat room's here. I'm sure you've got some questions for Rick and Jeri and want to know more. This is your opportunity to ask them some questions. We're going to give them a chance. This is really cool stuff, I have to say. It's mind-boggling. It's probably the word I would use here. Very interesting stuff. Our show today brought to you by Audible.com. Audio books, lectures. I listen to great courses on Audible. Speeches, radio shows. 150,000 titles at audible.com, and you can get one for free. We're going to set you up in here. Audible is my entertainment when I'm driving, when I'm walking, when I'm at the gym on the treadmill. Nothing more boring, right, than a treadmill or elliptical or, you know, a Stairmaster. But if you've got some great story going on and you're listening and you're engaged, you'd be surprised how fast half an hour goes by. Sometimes I even spend an hour on the treadmill just because I'm listening to a great, like, say, Ender's Game. Now, the movie's coming. If you haven't read Ender's Game, go right now to Audible and get Ender's Game. It would be a crime for the movie to spoil this book for you. It's such a great book. Their 20th anniversary edition is fabulous. Stefan Rudnicki, who does the narration, is one of their best readers. That's how I read Ender's Game. Lots of science fiction here, thrillers. The great courses, as I mentioned, they're showing me these because I just listened to a great course when I was at Troy in Turkey about the Iliad, but there's also great courses on pretty much anything you can think of, including computer technology and more. These are literally college courses recorded, and you can listen to them, and this could be your first book. There's so much stuff, bestsellers. Yeah, maybe it's time to start rereading 1984. Listen to the classic Simon Preble, who's, again, one of their great readers. That's one of the things I got to tell you about Audible. Wonderful actors, often Broadway actors, real pros doing their reading. So it is really, it comes to life. It's like watching a movie in your head. Go to audiblepodcast.com/triangulation. You'll be signing up for the Gold account. That's a book a month. Not nearly enough, but hey, everybody's got to start somewhere. I listen to more than that. I love my Audible books, but I listen all the time. Get that first book free. See how you like it. It can be self-help books like Unstuff Your Life, Kick the Clutter Habit. It could be science fiction like Storm Assault, Star Force Book 8. It can be classic fiction like The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, kids fiction. Here's Malala's new book. That's neat. I didn't know she had a book. I'll tell you, inspiration, instruction, or just plain fun, Audible's a place to go. audiblepodcast.com/triangulation. I'm telling you, you got to try this. If you haven't tried it yet, please do yourself a favor, do me a favor, and listen. What's this? Doing nonfiction. A book about Johnny Carson by Bombastic Bushkin. Well, I got to read that. audiblepodcast.com/triangulation. We're talking with Jeri Ellsworth and Rick Johnson of the castAR folks. Technical Illusions is the name of the company. You can donate if you want to get involved. You can get yourself one. How soon? What's the time frame? Your Kickstarter is funded, but you still got 30 days. You're probably going to start working soon. When do I get mine?
Okay. So there's some early developer glasses if you just have to have it before
that's
everyone.
One of the levels of contribution.
Yeah, there's like super expensive ones, which
right.
I'll hand build myself.
Handmade.
There's only one left. There were two that I'm going to hand build. And then there's 5 months out, there's going to be the point where we lock the hardware down. We're going to say, these are the feature sets. We've debugged it to this point. We're going to go into our design manufacturing stage. And that's where we're going to send out 50 units for developers to grab these, people that want to develop with it. And then beyond that, we're going to spend a full 5 months doing design for manufacturing. It's like something I've done before, so we need this time to
You'll make it in China, you think? Or
unfortunately, yeah. We looked into doing it in the States, but it's
very expensive.
People really want a low-cost device, but
right.
when you're paying $1 plus a minute assembly test, you can't.
Right.
Yeah, but unfortunately.
You should have one more level, the American-made one, twice the cost, yeah.
It would be.
Yeah,
So then we have to go into design manufacturing. So there's a lot to do there. We got to cut tools. We've got to go through certification.
Wow.
Yeah, we have to make sure it passes FCC, like the RFID.
Are these Class B devices?
It depends. So this is the RFID board's an intentional emitter.
It's emitting, yeah.
Yeah, so that one's going to take longer. So we're actually going to have to dedicate some resources to that. The glasses aren't emitting, so then we're going to be able to go through different certifications on that. Part of this whole thing is going to be industrial design and packaging, and then we're going to have to get the logistics to get it to our just-in-time distribution center. So it's a lot.
Hard.
It's a lot. But luckily, both Rick and I are experienced with shipping. So I've shipped tons of toy products before, and you've done software. So.
Probably 24 video games I've shipped over there.
Web 4719, what do you do if you wear glasses?
Oh, fits right over glasses. We made sure that there was enough accommodation in the back so it can fit over glasses. That was one of our key points. We wanted to make sure it worked with glasses. And actually, we found out when we went to Maker Faire for the first time, probably 20 or 30% of the people came through
wear glasses.
And they were ecstatic because it fit over their glasses.
I had to take off my glasses for the Oculus Rift, and it was very uncomfortable, and so I have to wear contacts and so forth. And same thing with Google Glass. They're not designed to work with spectacles. Dave McD is curious about non-gaming applications. What are some of the non-gaming apps you imagine or you envision?
Education is an excellent area for this. One of the samples we show quickly in the Kickstarter video is a frog, and then you can reveal the skin away and see the bone structure. And then you can move around to see how the bone structure interacts with where the skin is.
So cool.
Visualizing the solar system or molecules.
I think the flight simulator folks, that was pretty interesting. So there's a big airplane company looking at this that they have these huge projectors that have to project at the windows, and it costs millions of dollars. Now they took a look at this and they're like, wow, our pilots that are sitting in the simulator, now it could be much smaller, and the pilots just wear the glasses and project it to retroreflective screens.
Right.
And even the instrument cluster can be a retroreflective.
It's amazing. Now, you said that between the two eyes, there's 10% overlap. Can I stand next to another player? Will I get overlap from
only if you look over their shoulder?
You'd have
for
to get
every
pretty
degree.
close.
Yeah, every degree that you get off axis, it gets really dim. And you shot some B-roll over your shoulder.
Yeah.
It's going to be a really dim image, and that's because the camera's 5 to 10 degrees off axis, and there's virtually nothing.
That's the nature of this reflective surface.
Yeah, and there's other grades of material too that are even more directional.
Okay, interesting. Do you see it embedded into TVs for augmented TV shows? Can you imagine a TV show that would give you additional information augmented on that, you think? Will the networks come a-running?
Far out.
Yeah, this might be one of those next stage steps. But,
next gen.
You could imagine a situation in the real world where you could see virtual people where they are in the actual house that they're moving around in.
Right.
An application, and actually I do this kind of in my work areas. I have a piece of the retro material just kind of pushed up against the wall. And so I work on my computer. I wear the glasses. I can just look at my monitor while I'm working.
So you use this all the time?
Yeah, so as we're debugging, I'm just working on my computer, and then I just look over the screen, the tracker's there, so then I see the result.
So cool.
you could augment your monitor if you want, so you
could
have a
a
mini map.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. It's not quite as bright as a monitor would be. Is it going to? You said it's going to get brighter.
The brightness is coming up.
Yep.
That's actually part of the brightness problem in our prototypes. Is there's a polarization rotation that I just learned how to fix.
Oh.
So actually on the bench, our new prototypes are brighter.
Awesome. Awesome. Somebody said, I've been following you since Fat Man and Circuit Girl.
Oh, good old days.
Yeah, you're not doing that anymore, huh?
No, I don't do enough videos anymore.
You used to have people chatting at you, talking to you in your
24
lab.
hours a day in my workshop. No, when I moved to Seattle, that whole rig got tore down, and it's kind of sad. It was fun.
Yeah, it was kind of wild. Let me see if I can find his Fat Man and Circuit Girl question. I scrolled. There's so many questions. I've scrolled by it. Well, just gonna have to find that somewhere else.
No,
ask again. Ask again.
Glad you watched during Fat Man and Circuit Girl. Those were great days.
Those are really fun. What's he doing?
George Sanger?
Yeah.
I think he moved to LA last I heard.
All right.
I haven't talked to him in a little while.
Apart from donating to the Kickstarter, I got the rest of the question now, Web 4683. Apart from donating to the Kickstarter, how can I get involved? I'm an iOS developer. Can I help? Are you looking for more people for your team?
We will eventually. We need to see what is our ultimate outcome with the Kickstarter, and then start forming a plan based around what we have to deliver.
Depends on how much money you raise.
Yeah, so it's hard for us to predict what our staffing needs will be. We're starting with Android because it's a more of an open platform. Apple has a slightly restrictive policy with hardware, and so we get it up and running on Android. We show that it works on mobile devices, and then we can get it to iOS.
Ms. Au is asking if you've thought of haptic feedback gloves or other additional feedback devices to go along with this.
We have, but we've narrowed down to
focus on this for now.
Yeah, there's been some pretty cool experiments that I've experienced with haptic feedback that would really work nicely.
Now we're really talking virtual reality, you know.
Yeah.
But even the simple idea of having somebody saying, I could have now multiple giant displays fairly inexpensively, right? Instead of
it's a couple dollars per square meter for the stuff, so you just
get them all around you.
Yeah.
And just look up, and I could see for some,
for racing fanatics, if they want to make a wraparound racing cockpit, it would just be a couple dollars per meter to make this wraparound cockpit. And put your steering wheel in there, you can see your shifter and everything. You just look to the left, you look out your window.
Or as you said, in manufacturing, if you're monitoring a bunch of different things, I mean, if you're Homer Simpson in a nuclear power plant, you can just see it all the way around you. Very cool. So it's Unity right now. Does that mean any Unity game will work with this, or no?
There are games that work very well, and then there's just other games you have to think about the space.
So they don't have to be retrofitted to do this, to work with this? Or?
There's a simple script that you have to connect into your project that will make it work under that.
So the developer of a Unity-based game would need to add castAR compatibility to the game.
We haven't quite got the attention of the Unity developers themselves, and so while our integration is external, hopefully now we'll get the attention and we can have a built-in integration that makes it even more seamless.
Absolutely. I mean, just the ideas of all the things you could do are just phenomenal. Phenomenal. Are you really excited about this?
Yes.
Yeah.
From the early days, I could see the potential in it, and now it's finally coming true. And it's like now I can move into my element, like manufacturing and getting it out.
Yeah, this is your real. So, do you wear? How long do you wear them? Do you wear them all day when you're working?
Upwards of a couple hours.
Yeah, no problem.
What we've done, when we were doing play testing, and we had people coming into the hardware lab, and they would just stay forever. We couldn't get them out. We had the zombie game where you used two magic wands. One person had a wand, another person had a wand. You were leading your characters through this maze. And it was just a really silly game, but it was so addicting because you could kind of keep an eye on the other player, and you were trying to lead zombies into their area and run around. And
it was one of those quick example games I put together to test input movement. And I asked Jeri just to go to the Left 4 Dead directory and pick out some zombie sounds, and she picked out these atrocious sounds. So anytime a zombie did, you had this long moaning, and it was about 1 o'clock in the morning. We were still working, and there was 2 people playing this zombie game, and I'm trying to write some low-level graphics code.
Yeah, you got a little grumpy, didn't you?
Yeah. Trying to write low-level graphics code when you have zombies dying in the background. Like, get out of here.
What do you write it in C? What do you write it in?
The internals of the SDK is a mixture of C and C++. The Unity scripts are in C#.
C#. Yeah. Okay. Could you see? I wonder. Boy, it seems like this would be a great peripheral for an Xbox One or a PlayStation 4. It could work, right?
Both consoles have HDMI. They have USB. Yeah. It's whether or not, as an independent developer, Microsoft gives you access to the USB port or not. So it's. I don't have information right yet.
Calling from you're just down the road, you know.
We've talked to some folks.
I would think they could sell these for $500. Forget Kinect. I want to put this sucker on my head. Now you mentioned Leap instead of the Wand. Could this work with the Leap motion?
It could work with other peripherals.
It would have to be. Somebody would have to.
Yeah, you'd have to match it up the code. Right?
You could do Kinect. Originally, we were using the Hydra as an input device, and so you know, it's just something else so it's easy to integrate.
And you do get an SDK, right? That's one of the levels.
The SDK will be free, and most likely, in order to try and circumvent the hardware problem that we don't have the hardware out for the people, I'll release a version of the SDK earlier that will have recorded tracking data, so people will be able to see how their game looks for moving around a table or moving around, and it gets them a head start.
Now it's $189 through Kickstarter. It sounds like you could get the price down pretty good. In fact, maybe you start mass producing these under $100, maybe even. Yeah.
It's possible. You know, with volume, you can get them down. We've really pushed a lot of the cost out by highly integrating everything.
Right.
But don't want to do the Osborne effect and say we're going to release it
No. Yeah, but the camera is a cheap camera because it's I mean, it's this common part. The projectors, where do those come from?
There's several vendors of them. We've chose one that's...
Are they like Pico projectors?
They are.
Like, yeah.
That's what this is.
Okay.
So it's ferro-LCOS,
Yeah.
super high-speed projectors.
That's also a growth area where you're probably going to see prices drop
It's actually
a lot.
being pushed a lot by cell phones. These,
Right.
Actually, these display manufacturers really want these to live in cell phones.
Right.
So they keep pushing the price down, but
Right.
you know, it's...
So far, nobody really...
No one
I've
really
seen
wants them in
I've
the
played
phone,
with
though.
them, but yeah, nobody really wants them.
So we're actually probably the best application for these Pico
Yeah,
projectors.
that's right.
But
How about the Pentagon? Have they contacted you yet? I can imagine this would be a great thing for piloting drones.
There's been people that suggest it, but you know, with the government not having funding right now, that makes
Nobody's
it more
calling you
difficult.
these days, yeah. Dave McD wants to know, would it be feasible to use this as a primary computer display? It's not that high res or that bright yet. Text would be hard to read, yeah?
well, right now that was 644/80 per eye that you
Right.
were looking at. We're going to 720p. It looks really good on
Close,
the bench.
yeah.
Yeah.
I guess you could.
You would still probably want to keep your monitor for doing
Yeah.
Word documents,
Right,
but
right. For gaming, perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. Quick, everybody, go to Kickstarter. Let's see if we can get $10 million out of them. I mean, if you've got this far in a couple of days since Monday, I think the sky's the limit on this. Obviously, you've got a great community surrounding you, which is neat. And Steam's loss is our gain. I'm very excited about this. This is great. I'm still going to buy a Steam box, and maybe someday down the road that could.
I love
come
the
full
folks at
circle.
Valve.
Yeah.
It's I might have been a little negative on them, but there's a lot of good stuff going on there.
Absolutely. I think Gabe Newell's a really neat guy, an interesting guy, and I could see what happened. This was just too blue sky. It was too out there for them, and they wanted to focus on this thing that they wanted to ship, a Linux-based gaming box, and so. But I could see down the road maybe we should really have an AR thing to go with this. It just seems like every game console should have this. castAR, you can get it yourself. Go to Kickstarter and search for castAR, and you too can donate. It's so great to see you again, Jeri Ellsworth. You're one of our favorite people.
Oh, you're my favorite person
Yeah,
too. I'm
it's
so
so nice to
sad
see
I haven't been
you.
able to get down here so much.
Well, you know what? Every time you come, you do something really wild and wonderful. So it just takes that long for you to come up with something new.
Well, let's try to do it a little quicker.
I hope so. You're always welcome here, Rick Johnson. Great to meet you.
Me too.
Same goes to you. I want to see this as it develops. Want to see more and more of this. Anytime you come down here, just let us know. I know you come down for the pinball expos pretty regular.
Oh.
Now, you have any time to do that anymore?
No, I mean
This is it.
It's been ridiculous. We've been
Yeah.
14 hours a day.
Yeah.
And leading up to Kickstarter, it was even less. I mean, the night we hit the button on Kickstarter, the Kickstarter guys were awesome. They worked with us late into the night Sunday so that we could launch. And then we worked all night refining our text and
Yeah.
stuff, and then we'd click the button at 5 a.m.
You must have been gratified to see how much money came in so fast. That's a really great feeling.
The speed at which it happened I think it caught both of us by surprise.
Yeah.
But at the same time, Kickstarter is a strange form of addiction that you're always checking your cell phone to see what it's up to and where it's going, and I'm surprised I haven't checked it right now.
Wait till the IPO, and that really will drive you crazy. Somebody want to know Raspberry Pi. I don't see any reason you couldn't have a Raspberry Pi power this, yeah?
Raspberry Pi doesn't have a 3D chip, so
Not enough graphics
That'd be
horsepower.
cool,
Yeah.
though.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, you know what? We've all
Oh,
got...
something I didn't mention that some of the fans might be interested in is we're going to try to keep it as open as we can. I mean, some of the stuff we have to keep locked down, but for instance, RFID grid, we want to kind of keep that open because there's a
Good.
lot of
That's really a product in and of itself, isn't it?
Yes. There's bidirectional communication you can do. You can do your own protocol. So if you're really into near-field communication type stuff, what if you put your phone here and we left it open enough that people could start communicating with their phone, so you locate your phone onto the surface and things like that.
Wow.
So kind of open as we can make it.
Good. Good. Well, that's a good idea, too, because that means you'll have more people playing. And the more
They're
the
smarter than
merrier.
we are. They'll come up with all
No
the...
one's smarter than you are, Jeri Ellsworth. But that's very interesting that you would say that. Right, Rick?
Yes,
Smart woman.
very much.
Very, very
He's pretty
smart woman.
smart, too.
I'm sure he's smart, too. You wouldn't be working together. Technical Illusions, good luck. I'm really great to see you again, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
I always say we bring the smartest, most interesting people on the internet here to Triangulation, but I think this may be the most smartest, interesting people ever.
Go on.
We do Triangulation. Stick around. We're going to do an Inside Twit. We haven't done one in a while. We have some big announcements, so that's coming up in just a second. We do Triangulation every Wednesday afternoon around 4 p.m. Pacific. That would be 7 p.m. Eastern Time. 2300 UTC on twit.tv. Please stop by if you can. Watch live. As you can see, the chat room, I rely on you guys for questions. But if you can't, of course, we've got on-demand audio and video always available after the fact at twit.tv/TRI or wherever fine podcasts are offered. In fact, if you subscribe in iTunes or whatever, you'll get it every week. And, you know, I'm telling you, this show is one of those shows you really don't want to miss any episodes. There's always interesting stuff on Triangulation. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.